Good morning. I'm going to be talking with one of our other Going Beyond the Lens co-founders, Roarie. So we're just waiting for them to pop on. And I'm getting some cool shadows. The sun is rising here. We're going to be talking just a little bit about the art show on Saturday, which there's still time to sign up. It's totally free. Just an opportunity to connect with other artists and share your work and speak a little bit to it, since we don't always get the opportunity to provide some context. Oh, there you are. Good morning.
Hi, morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good. It's nice and sunny today. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I see some blue sky behind you. That looks nice.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that for this light and beautiful conversation that we could have a nice surrounding atmosphere.
Love that.
Yeah. I see you've got a similar thing going on. I like the light and shadows that are happening.
That was a surprise. That appeared after I logged on, but I was like, cool. Thanks, son.
Yeah. I want to jump in because there's something that's really beautiful that we do in the group is usually we check in with each other before we do a project to make sure our intentions are aligned with each other. And usually it'll look like, well, for me, my experience is usually like, hey, what do you want to talk about this morning? Or, some sort of question that helps us start that conversation. And it's so often that we all find that we're on a similar page. Like, what do we want to talk about? What are we thinking about this morning? And it's just really interesting that coincided. Bunny shared something that was right in line with what you were thinking, right in line with what I was thinking.
It was like, yeah, it had lined up like that.
I just think that it speaks. So for me, my experience and the way that I see that is when you are authentic and you share your truth and you're not afraid to step in and say, this is what I'm thinking and this is what I feel, you will draw more people to that idea and to also step up and share those things. And I found that to be true in our group.
Totally. I think that's also how we hit on some of the universal truths. Like, how do we zoom out from the personal experience and get to something that is a shared experience? For that discovery of that alignment. Yeah. So do you want to share a little bit about what that through line was for us this morning?
Well, I'll start with the one that I think was the short, concise statement. And then I would love to hear you elaborate and expand on some of the things that you brought in that chat. So we're thinking about connection and community and what is the point of sharing art. Community is to encourage and validate all of the invalidation that we seek in the external world all the time. And this art share, I think, is our manifestation of having a space that we can communicate and encourage and validate each other. And then you brought something that added to that. I'd really love to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's so special because there's so few places where it's not a competition. It's not you're not going to get a grade. You can ask for feedback if you want. Like, hey, my intention really was to communicate the beauty of connection. Are you getting that? Is that coming through clearly? You could ask for feedback, but it's not necessarily like a space where you have to work within other people's confines, where you have to work within the confines of censorship. Because, how much of our artwork is shaped by those constraints of we just want to be able to share it. And there are so few ways in which we can do that freely. So now we're allowing people to not only have the space to move and breathe and share their work openly, but you also get to provide context, which is super beautiful because usually all we get is a caption. You get a title, right? You don't get to be this is my perspective and this is where I'm coming from. And it really helps people to fall that much more in love with and get that much more immersed in what it is that you're sharing, which makes it a more dynamic experience. So I'm super excited to be able to hear from our community, what we have to offer, because I think the point of why do we share? It gets lost when we have to do so much work to find a space that's safe to share it. like without having to risk being deleted or reported or like whatever.
Yeah. Oh, with that being said, folks, if you've not attended one of the art shares before, we don't censor any of the artwork, and we've had all forms of artwork. Anything from audiobooks to paintings to mixed medias to pictures of paintings to performances. It's been across the board, and it's so beautiful because for me, I exist in the photo realm, and I've educated myself in the photo realm. And when I see other types of art being created and the creative process behind it and hearing different people's perspectives on how and what they were trying to capture, that grows my own artistic practice. It gives me more ways to see the world and interact with the world around me.
Totally. I think one of the things that Bunny had shared that this makes me think of is how through these honest depictions, you're sort of like, because art is often a byproduct of processing or a byproduct of discovery, right? It's just like this natural human tendency. There actually is not a division between people who are artists and people who are not artists. There's a difference only in, have you chosen to consciously be crafting this output, this natural human process, or not? Or do you not think about it at all and you just let it happen on the inside? So we're really, through this community, I think, giving people an opportunity to be mingling with other artists that they really admire. Like everybody that comes, I'm always like, oh my God, like these are people that I am, you know, constantly inspired by, and having the chance to be around them and exchanging energy and exchanging ideas and collaborating with them in the Backstage Pass event is just so fulfilling. So I'm super excited to see the way that people can really step into and have permission to step into, like, I am going to be an artist for an hour. I'm going to share my point of view and what was going on for me, and sort of this little like porthole, this little keyhole into my existence. And that there's no pressure to like measure up in any way, right? It's just, we're asking you to be honest, and we're saying that this is a container that we're going to create boundaries that make it safe. We're not going to censor. We're not going to ridicule. We're not going to exploit, right? We're just absorbing and listening deeply. And like, that is so precious. So I'm super excited to see what people do with that. Who becomes an artist, who decides to, you know, expand their vision, maybe take a new medium. Like maybe we get to see a new medium from somebody who we're familiar with their work in another way. Like that
would be really cool. I think I wouldn't say the only, there's a few things off the top of my head that I can think of that we have not had yet, like sculptures, pottery, anybody that makes like 3D art or three-dimensional art. We've had video before, we've had audiobooks and different poetry. I think one of the things that Bunny had shared in the conversation this morning was that art is a natural human occurrence. It can look like in a productive form as problem solving, because you need to use creativity to say, here's a problem, here are the ways that I can solve it. That is art. I'm putting these air quotes around this because in the society that I was raised in, something that leads to a monetary outcome is more valuable than something that is not. I do not believe that, so I put it in air quotes. So when it comes to art in its productive form, creative problem solving leads to solving problems for money, or art, which I think has a great societal and a moral and a just human well-being value, but doesn't always lead to and doesn't always need to lead to a monetary outcome. And that was one of the things that Bunny touched upon in the conversation that we had this morning. And I thought, wow, what a revolutionary concept. And in the space that we've created together, we can share the artwork that has been meaningful and powerful and important to us without any judgment or fear, and in a safe way that it's not censored. And it doesn't need to go anywhere other than that. There's no necessity, like having the experience outside of ourselves and validated could be the end all be all. And that would be enough.
Right.
And I'm not saying that pursuing galleries or, wanting to put your prints in other places are bad. It's not an either or. It can be an and also.
Totally. Yeah, it's super important to have those spaces. It's like you need both. It's like if you're only creating, I say this to people all the time, they're like, oh, I really want to make money with my art. And I was like, whoa, what does your creative practice look like now for pleasure for you? It has to be for you first. And when you think about like our visual culture is entirely dominated by constraints that we don't control, like Facebook and Instagram censorship. Like, think about every movie that's ever made. It's always sponsored by somebody. There's always a product placement in there somewhere. Like, how often do you get to just experience something that was purely created organically, just raw? There's no ulterior motive, Like, that kind of freedom to define culture is super rare. And just the experience of sharing it is enough. You're absolutely right. This idea that we need to like package it and market it in order for it to be valid, in order for it to be good, or in order for it to be like life sustaining is not true. And it's said to us unfortunately structure that's really realizing doesn't serve us anymore. And I'm excited that this is just another space where we have the opportunity to create a new culture, and like we're going to share this from our real point of views. We're going to see real bodies. We're going to see real experiences, the nuances of them. We're not going to sort of like shave off the parts that are difficult to understand. We're going to allow people to provide context so that we can really engage with the work in a, meaningful way.
Yeah. I think one of those, I don't know, it can be a helpful and also a hurtful question. And I know that it's well-intended. Sometimes people are like, well, what's the purpose of this that you've created? What's the purpose? What's the point? And what you said, which was really cool, was for me. It's for me. I needed to understand and experience or process this feeling or this experience that I had or this feeling. And I don't really understand it. And so I made a thing. And out of that thing is this. And then it can be really validating to share it with other people, to hear maybe how they're seeing it or experiencing it. And sometimes, a lot of the time for myself, reveal something that was that missing edge that I didn't really see. I couldn't see the whole picture. I was feeling the feels, and then having it reflected back and validated outside of myself can be the whole purpose. Doesn't need to be more than that.
Totally true. Like that, being able to participate in other people's self-discovery process and really witness them in a new way is so magnificent. It's like, how many spaces do we really get to do that for each other, where you get to sort of like help somebody piece together the puzzle of their experience and their life, and you get to like witness that. I mean, we fall in love. Every art form is always based on stories. We fall in love with stories, and it's an ability to participate in someone else's story. That is like a huge gift. So yeah, I'm super.
Oh, wait, can you say that again? That's so beautiful. I love it.
I don't know. How did I even word it? I don't know. I think it's, like all art is people's stories. That's why it's good when it's honest, right? That's why it's like when it's really good, because it's like no one's brought that exact nuance to it before, even if you are in conversation with other stories throughout history, backwards. It's like.
So it sounds like something like what you said, like aligns with the way that I talk about art. So you said that all art are stories, and you get to share somebody's experience and experience it through someone's lens. And you're absolutely right. Like, what makes my art different than yours is that who I am, the summation of how I experience the world, all of the experiences I had as a child to now is going to look different, even if we shoot the same thing, because we have very different perspectives, very different ways of being. When I explain art to people, what I tell people is that it's communication. This is how I see, how I experience, and how I've moved in the world, and I'm sharing that, communicating that with you. And you essentially said, a very similar thing. And that's why I think in the art space, when you get exposed to all of these different ways of seeing in a safe and encouraging environment, you dismantle different as a threat.
Yeah.
You go, oh, I see different, and it's not a threat. I'm learning from it. I'm encouraged by it. And now there are more possibilities than there was before.
Right. All it does is open up more possibilities for each other. Like every time that we do this work to sort of like free a little bit more of ourselves from whatever these limiting beliefs, these like old, stories that were sold to us that we didn't get to write, that we didn't have choice in. Like, we now have the ability to sort of like digest and then move forward. And as we exchange these little like pieces, whether it's a book or a photo or whatever, of our discovery process, it unlocks that in other people, and it gives other people the opportunity to think differently or try on a different way of being. And like I say this all the time, I'm like, I would never have come out if I didn't have art. I would have just suffered for the rest of my life. Like I would have just done it because I didn't think it was even a possibility. And it's like these little bits. It was like the first time I saw somebody had like, that was like completely, you know, gender ambiguous and like beautifully blended masculine, feminine, and like had a mustache and long hair. I was like, oh, somebody did that. I could stop like really hurting myself and spending a ton of time and money and totally mutilating my body in order to like hide from the world. Like I could just be here alive. It's crazy. Yeah. So it's like art is freedom, art is your story. I'm really stoked to be like free telling stories together in the space on Saturday. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah. There's a link in the bio, in all of the artists' bio, there's Lior, Bunny, myself, and also the Going Beyond the Lens account. These events are free. You just register. That's the only way you'll be able to get the link to attend the event. I know it may be tedious, but it is what it is. And then you can submit the art. The link is also in there to submit your art. And I think, as far as I know, right now we can submit up to 2 to 3 images from any one artist. We always want to make sure that we credit all artists involved. So if you have a picture, say you're the photographer and there are multiple models, please include their names. We've seen, you know, all different kinds of mediums, and I welcome anyone to step outside the box and bring something totally new.
Surprise us, let's go. Doug said these events are awesome. Thank you, Doug. So looking forward to tomorrow as well.
Oh, Doug has been a huge supporter. I want to shout out to some of the folks that have showed up to pretty much every event. It has been super encouraging. We have an awesome group. We got Roarie. We've got Lior's been really great. Bunny's also been really great. My coworkers are the best.
Roarie's awesome. We're super lucky to have them. Yeah.
Yeah, Raquel has been to nearly every event. Marcus has been to quite a few. Alexia. So anybody else that we want to shout out?
I think that's most of the people that are coming to my mind. I mean, like, everyone who has even come one time has made a huge impact. And, you know, Lydia Love went to a bunch of our events and is now working with me in other capacities too. And I just love how, like, the people that have shown up repeatedly are now, like, helping us build the next level as we scale of this Going Beyond the Lens. And, yeah, I'm just super excited to share it with y'all and to be building this together.
That also reminded me, during our Going Beyond the Lens incubation period, we were able to create an event, kind of a workshop for how to shoot and like a behind the scenes photo shoot. And we invited folks to collaborate with us creating those images. And we're going to reveal those images and share them with y'all. So it was so exciting. And for folks that weren't able to participate, we'll give a little backstory and context to how that happened. Is there anything else that you might want to add, Lior?
I think we covered it. This was a really juicy morning. Thank you so much. 20 minutes with you, and I'm like, I'm ready for what else the day has. Let's go.
I do. I love these. They give me so much like energy and I don't know, just rejuvenation. I'm like, oh, okay, my morning is centered. I'm ready. Let's go.
Heart sparkles every time. I'm like, great. I feel like I can just go into the day now.
Oh, heck yeah.
So much.
Like I said, my coworkers are the best. I'll see all of y'all on Saturday, hopefully, and your beautiful art as well. Thank you, Lior. Have a good day.
You too. See y'all there.